There's a moment you know well. The room goes quiet. No notifications. No voices. No noise to hide behind. And something in your chest tightens, like the silence itself is asking you a question you don't want to answer. You reach for your phone before you even realize you've moved. Not because there's anything to check, just because the quiet felt unbearable for a second longer. Why does silence do this to you? Why does something so harmless feel like a threat? That's what we're going to sit with today. Think about the last time you were truly alone with nothing to distract you. Maybe it was a long drive with the radio off. Maybe it was lying in bed, waiting for sleep that wouldn't come. Maybe it was a quiet Sunday afternoon with nowhere to be. For a lot of people, that stillness doesn't feel peaceful. It feels loud. Thoughts start arriving that you didn't invite. Old conversations replay. Unfinished worries surface. Your own mind starts to feel like a room you don't want to be locked in. So you fill it. Music, scrolling, background television, a call to someone just to hear a voice. Anything to keep the silence from fully arriving. Over time, this becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way you relate to yourself. You start to believe you're someone who can't sit still, someone who needs noise, someone who's just wired that way. It shapes how you spend your evenings, how you date, how you work, even how you grieve. Silence starts to feel like a mirror you'd rather not look into. Psychologists have a name for part of what's happening here. It relates to something called experiential avoidance, the tendency to escape uncomfortable internal states rather than move through them. Silence doesn't create anxiety out of nothing. It removes the noise that was covering it up. Here's the part that matters most. This is not a character flaw. You are not broken, and you are not weak for needing the noise. Your nervous system learned, at some point, that unstructured quiet was not safe. Maybe it was a childhood home where silence meant tension was building. Maybe it was a period of loneliness where being alone with your thoughts meant replaying pain on a loop. Maybe no dramatic reason at all, just years of a fast, overstimulated world that never gave your mind a chance to practice being still. Whatever the cause, your brain did something intelligent. It built a habit of avoidance. Because avoidance worked, at least in the short term. It got you out of discomfort fast. That's not dysfunction. That's adaptation. The problem isn't that your brain protected you. The problem is that the protection never got updated. To understand why silence triggers anxiety, you have to understand what your brain is actually built to do. Your brain is not built for peace. It's built for prediction. Every moment, it's scanning for patterns, trying to answer one question: what happens next? Noise gives it something to predict. A conversation, a show, a scrolling feed, these all hand the brain a stream of information to process and anticipate. Silence removes that stream, and when the external world stops giving your brain data to predict, it turns inward. It starts scanning your internal world instead. Your unresolved thoughts, unspoken feelings, unmade decisions. Think of your mind like a pond. Noise is like wind constantly moving the surface. You never see what's underneath because the water never stops rippling. Silence is what happens when the wind stops. Suddenly, the surface goes still, and everything you've been avoiding becomes visible at the bottom. That's not your mind malfunctioning. That's your mind finally getting quiet enough to show you what's been sitting there the whole time. There's a simple mental model that helps here. Think of your emotions as unread messages. Noise doesn't delete them, it just mutes the notification. Silence turns the sound back on. The anxiety you feel isn't being created by the quiet. It's the backlog finally getting through. So, what do you actually do with this? Not sit in silence and hope it feels better. That's the same vague advice that never works. Here's a framework built on how the brain actually processes discomfort. Step 1, name what's arriving instead of numbing it. When a thought or feeling surfaces in silence, put words to it, even just one sentence in your head or on paper. This works because naming an emotion activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, which lowers activity in the amygdala's fear response. This is sometimes called affect labeling. A real-life version, instead of grabbing your phone the second a heavy thought appears, you simply say to yourself, "I'm feeling anxious about tomorrow's conversation." That single sentence does measurable work in calming the nervous system. Step 2, shorten the exposure instead of forcing endurance. You don't need an hour of silence to retrain your brain. Start with 2 or 3 minutes without input. This works because of a principle from behavioral psychology called graded exposure, where the nervous system builds tolerance through small, repeatable doses rather than overwhelming immersion. A real-life version. Sit with your morning coffee for 3 minutes, with no phone, no music, before your day begins. Not as a ritual, as a rep. Step 3. Separate discomfort from danger. Your body may spike with anxiety in silence, a tight chest, restless hands, but that sensation is not evidence that something is wrong. This works because of interoception, your brain's reading of internal body signals, which can misfire and label neutral arousal as threat. A real-life version, when you notice your heart rate rise in a quiet room, instead of reacting to escape it, you ask, is this actually dangerous, or is this just unfamiliar? Most of the time, it's unfamiliar, not unsafe. Step 4. Give your mind a task, not a void. Total blankness is hard for most people to sustain, and it's not actually necessary. This works because attention needs an anchor, and without one, the brain defaults to whatever thought is loudest, usually the anxious one. A real-life version, instead of sitting in pure silence, focus on your breath or on the specific sound still present, a clock, wind outside, your own heartbeat. This gives your mind a gentle point of focus instead of an empty stage for anxiety to perform on. Step 5. Treat silence as information, not a verdict. What surfaces in stillness is data about what you've been avoiding, not proof that you are falling apart. This works because avoided emotions tend to intensify over time, a pattern known as emotional amplification, while acknowledged emotions tend to soften. A real-life version, if grief or worry keep surfacing every time things get quiet, that's not silence failing you. That's your mind telling you what still needs attention. Here's the mental model to hold on to. Silence is not empty. It's a mirror. What you feel in it isn't created by the quiet, it's revealed by it. Noise was never making you calmer. It was just delaying an appointment with your own mind. And every time you feel silence instead of facing it, that appointment gets pushed further down the line with interest. The goal was never to love silence instantly. The goal is to stop treating it like an enemy and start treating it like feedback. Feedback you're finally quiet enough to hear. You don't need to fix your relationship with silence overnight. You just need to stop running from the version of yourself that shows up when the noise stops. That version of you isn't dangerous. It's just honest. And maybe the anxiety you feel in quiet rooms was never a warning to escape. Maybe it was your own mind finally getting the chance to speak after being interrupted for years. The next time the room goes quiet and your chest tightens, try not reaching for the phone. Try listening instead. You might be surprised by what you've been trying not to hear.